All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming today, and welcome to our weekly technology transformation call. I'm Alan Watkins with Technology Transformation Management, better known as TTM, and much easier to say. We've started a series to help our clients and the market in general as we adjust to the new normal. We'll be highlighting successful technologies from our over 300 partners. Goal being to make sure that you stay in the front lines with your teams and supporting your IT and operations. Today, I think our guest is extremely well timed. Just reading the other day, the Info Security Group cyber attacks are up 37% for the month of April, and phishing attempts are up over 600% since February, according to Barracuda. With these things in mind, and remote working the new must for all organizations, AppGate is kind of the perfect thing for today. AppGate by no means is a security startup. Founded in 2017 by Manny Medina to solve problems around the delivery of global secure infrastructure services. You may recall Medina's name. He was the creator and founder of Terramark, which was the gold standard for many years in the cloud managed hosting arena. He sold that to Verizon for $1.4 billion. He then started Sextera and AppGate, which AppGate was recently spun out of Sextera, and what I believe was a very good strategic market move for them. AppGate's capability encompasses fraud protection, threat analytics, offensive security services. The name comes from their zero trust software-defined perimeter solution called AppGate DP. And with that, I'd love to welcome Jim Anthony, Vice President of Cybersecurity for AppGate.
Hey, Alan, thank you for having me on today. And can you hear me? Quick sound check here.
Loud and clear, sir.
Perfect.
So, Jim, I appreciate you joining us. Tell me a little bit about AppGate.
Well, AppGate, as you already mentioned, is a company that was spun out from Sextera in January of this year, January 1st. We've got a whole host of cybersecurity software products and services that we're bringing to market. As you're displaying on the screen there, we're mitigating threats all day, every day through some of our managed security service offerings. We've got well over 1,000 customers all around the planet in 40 different countries, and centers of excellence in various places as well. So AppGate as a product, oddly enough, is our flagship product called AppGate SDP, SDP standing for Software Defined Perimeter. It is a product that's been in the market for over a decade, believe it or not. I've been associated with the product for the last 6 years, and we're seeing a tremendous uptick in purchases and acquisition of the product through various partners and channels and direct marketing and whatnot, as it relates to working from home, tightening security, solving some zero trust and software-defined perimeter issues that customers are realizing that they have. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And actually, the first time I learned about AppGate, it took me a couple times to kind of reformulate it around the traditional VPN modeling, right? So, I'm hoping that a lot of people here will get that clarity much quicker than I did in initial review. I think this slide details pretty well, what the solution does as far as new environments look. And in addition to that, let's talk about what's going on with the current pandemic and people working from home. How are you seeing that change things, Jim?
Yeah, it's having a big impact on what's going on out there in a lot of corporate environments. As you know, most companies that didn't already have a work from home initiative or a high number of traveling workforce, they're struggling, and they're struggling with the concept that the users have to be productive, and yet they may or may not have corporate issued devices, and so they're having to rely on their own personal devices in a lot of ways. The second big issue is that the company didn't predict that all these people would need to be connecting over the internet and reaching these various applications. So they don't have appropriately sized pipes or appropriately sized connectivity solutions. And so that's presenting another unique challenge for them. What we're actually seeing on the AppGate side is we can solve both problems with the product itself. So first of all, with AppGate, we have the ability to analyze the end user's credentials, their posture, understand what kind of device they're on before we let them connect to the corporate environment. And so companies that need to enforce BYOD policies or antivirus, anti-malware solutions need to be sure that they're running. AppGate can ensure that these things are all true before that user is granted access to the environment. And then on the access side, AppGate has the ability to scale horizontally to literally any volume of traffic that's necessary, including using new cloud-based things like auto-scaling in Amazon or Azure or GCP. You can scale up that connectivity on demand as the user workload increases. And so it's providing a very unique capability. Besides all the cybersecurity concepts and the encryption and everything else that goes with it, it's providing a unique capability for prospects out there. The deployment is quick. It takes less time than you would imagine to get it installed. We've got a couple of brand new customers that were up and running in less than a week with over 500 connected users. So it's a pretty interesting use case. And COVID-19 is leading to some of these conclusions in the market. But I think the bottom line is that our customers are finding that because they're solving a problem, a work from home problem that they have today, they're actually seeing great benefit in what AppGate's bringing to the table, and have deep plans to use it long term.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because a few weeks ago, customers were, we were helping clients go through numerous vendors in a practice. We don't generally sell hardware, right? That's not our practice, but we were hunting down and finding, who had available laptops, to get shipped out instantly for people. Pretty amazing the amount of demand, much less, the question of the supply chain, right? So it seemed like there was really a challenge in getting that new hardware out there. So I think a lot of organizations are still using, bring your own device at the moment.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about AppGate, right? If you think about what's happened over the last 15 or 20 years in the IT world in general, IT has changed dramatically, right? We all have iPhones and iPads, and we have very powerful and capable devices that we carry around with us every day. That didn't exist 15 years ago or 20 years ago. We have access to services on demand, whether they're SaaS-based or cloud-based. That didn't exist 20 years ago either. And so if you think about the change in the IT landscape and how dramatic it's been over these last couple of decades, but then compare that to network security and IT security in general, that hasn't really changed all that much. A funny analogy, if you would have taken 20 years ago an IT administrator and a network administrator and stuck them in a cave and said, hey, hang out here for the next 20 years and we'll come get you when we're ready, and then pulled them out of that cave yesterday, how would they react to what they found, in the world? The IT guy would come out and he'd look around and he'd be like, well, what's this cloud stuff? I don't know what that is. What's this iPhone device, this Android device that people are carrying around? It looks like they have the internet in the palm of their hand. That's a brand new concept for me. I have no idea what a hypervisor is even, right? What is that? And so this IT guy's mind is completely blown. His world is completely different. He's got to go back to school. He's got to crack the books and figure out, how do I handle all this stuff? And yet the network security guy comes out of the cave and he looks around and he's like, oh, VPN, firewall, NAC, router, got it. My world hasn't changed at all. Who's ready to give me a job? And that sort of underscores the level of craziness that the IT person has to deal with versus the fact that network security hasn't really changed at all. And software-defined perimeter and zero trust is really all about that change. It's time to adopt a new way to take a look at securing your environments and understanding how to maintain access, maintain control of those environments in a way that makes sense instead of it being based on IP addresses. And so that gets us right into the VPN challenges. So if you think about traditional network access, especially for remote users, your head typically goes directly to VPNs. Everybody knows what they are. Everybody has one. Everybody uses them. But what's wrong with them? Well, first of all, people get confused that VPNs are cybersecurity software when in fact they're really nothing more than connectivity software. VPNs happen to encrypt traffic, but that's really about all that they do. Their performance is typically tied to physical boxes. So you've got a physical thing that you're connecting to on the other end of the network. That thing is limited in scalability and life because there is typically one of them. Doing HA VPNs is very, very rare, very scarce, and costs a lot of money to do. So, tying them to physical devices is typically very unacceptable. And in this day and age of working from home with COVID-19, a lot of companies have run into scalability issues with their existing VPN solutions. The next thing to start thinking about is a really poor end user experience. That end user has to understand and know when to use the VPN and when not to use the VPN. They need to know which VPN to use if they've got to switch from one data center to another. Sometimes the VPN creates scenarios where the user is bouncing from into one VPN location only to bounce back across the country to get to the application that they need access to, creating latency and extra hops. So these are all issues that VPNs expose. They've got vulnerability issues and security flaws as well. If you go out and Google, your favorite VPN vendor, and put in Chinese APT with the Google search, you will find that your VPN concentrator has been hacked into. Just about every single one on the market has been susceptible to attack over the last 12 to 18 months. And the reason that they're susceptible is these open listening ports. Open listening ports are the bane of traditional network security technologies. And because that open port is out there, they can be hacked into. And AppGate is a solution to this problem in a sense that we use a concept called single packet authorization to hide those ports. Those ports are only accessible by authorized users. And so that's a major differentiator in how we capture market share. Another big issue with security relating to VPNs is that they typically have static rule sets. Those static rule sets often lead to over entitlement in the network. It's not easy to change them, and they're not dynamic in any way. And so you need a better solution to dynamically adjust a user's access based on context, and that's what AppGate brings to the market. Session tokens are reusable. They're copyable. You can move them from device to device. You can spoof another user. There's nothing that prevents that from happening in a VPN. And so, there's all kinds of risks associated with it. And really the AppGate SDP solution that we're talking about today addresses every single one of these issues in the market.
Yeah, so with that in mind, more people coming home, a higher number of people subscribing remotely. I mean, can we dive in a little bit deeper into the software-defined perimeters so people can walk away with a really good understanding of it? Because it's, for many, this is a brand new concept. You guys were around much earlier than some of the others that are starting to use those terms. So,
yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about it a little bit. So first of all, software-defined perimeter is not something we invented. It is a concept that the Cloud Security Alliance is defining the specifications for. They are about to release their 2.0 spec. We're, of course, helping with that. We're co-chairing the group that's actually writing those specs with a few of our other competitors in the market. So it's an industry accepted concept that's out there. What it really involves doing is creating a mechanism that allows user authentication and device authentication prior to letting that user have access to any application. So it's the idea of authenticating first and then connecting to your applications. If you think about the traditional way of doing it with that open listening port, really users are used to connecting to something and then providing it credentials. And this is what leads to hacking. And so with software-defined perimeter, the bottom line is it is a authenticate first, connect after that scenario. And so typically these software-defined perimeter solutions are built with software. Sometimes they're built with services, and there's benefits of one versus the other. I would argue that having a software-based solution prevents the use of multi-tenancy and cloud routing, where you're relying on other service providers to actually scale your infrastructure or keep your traffic private, those kind of things. And so a software-based solution is actually what you want to go for. Software-defined perimeters also include the concept of identity-centric access policies. So identity-centric meaning understanding who the user is and whether or not they know their credentials, but also knowing their role in the organization and what device are they on and what's the health of that device. All of these concepts are built into the AppGate SDP solution. And then, ultimately you want to get to a zero trust scenario where just because a user is a known user or just because they're on a known device or on a known network, they don't inherit any trust because of that. Those things are all compromisable. You can write your credentials down on a sticky note and lose the sticky note. Your laptop can be stolen. People can surf over your shoulder while you're typing things in. There's all kinds of ways that you can be spoofed. So the argument here is that you've got to be able to look at all of these things simultaneously as the user, the device, and the network are attempting to connect to your applications and decide in real time, do I want to allow this to happen? And so from that perspective, it is a whole new way of thinking about securing access to your corporate applications.
Well, thanks, Jim. No, I mean, I think this slide tells it all. Gartner, whether you love them or not, they're estimating 60% of the enterprises will have phased out or be phasing out, VPNs this year or in 2021, excuse me. What are you seeing as far as the customers I know you guys had a steady increase of customers rushing to your doors to try to help. What are you seeing? How are you guys facilitating? How quickly are you getting solutions in place for the clients in today's market?
We're actually seeing a large amount of traction with VPN replacement today for obvious reasons.
Right.
The VPN solutions that companies have deployed traditionally, they're just falling over with this increased workload that they have to deal with. We've actually got a couple of examples over the last couple of weeks that we've gone from, call it initial sales call on a Tuesday afternoon to purchase and roll out over the weekend with 500 users active by Monday morning. And so that's a really powerful statement. Deploying this solution is actually relatively easy. There's appliances that are deployed in your network. These can all be virtual appliances. And so that's an easy thing to do remotely. You can sit at home in your pajamas and get the appliance component deployed. Then you've got to deploy your clients out to your end users. That can be completely automated or manually done by each of the individual end users. So there's ways that you can do that and get that rolled out in a very short amount of time. And then the final third step is just defining the various policies that you want to enforce. Everything from a wide open policy, give me credentials and I'll give you access to the data center, all the way down to I want to enforce BYOD standards and corporate issued device standards before I grant you access. And so that just all depends on the people that are adopting, the company that's adopting the product and how detailed they want to be with it right up front.
That's fantastic. I mean, I know we've been rushing, finding communication platforms for customers, trying to figure out whether it's Microsoft or whatever platform and Teams that they need to do to get up and running with the larger groups. After talking with you guys, we wanted to come up with what are next steps. If a client's interested, looking at, removing the VPNs from their environment, moving to the next generation technologies. I worked with you and Mark, fantastic team, on kind of, how to engage us. So anybody from this call is interested, we have, a white paper out there that can help. Happy to do a one-on-one call with your organization, your business, to talk about it. And then AppGate has put out a 90-day free trial. You've seen a lot of people take advantage of that free trial.
We have. We've got a lot of traction with that free 90-day trial. In fact, there's various different ways that you can go and engage with the product on that trial. You can even do it without our help by engaging first on various cloud platforms. In the AWS, GCP, and Azure Marketplace, there's trial software that's located out there. Engage us. We can get you the right licensing to help size the environment. to fit into that 90-day concept as well. I see a question being posted in chat about what's the cost structure look like. Typical of any other VPN, the cost has two elements for us. The primary driver of the cost is the number of end users that are using the solution. So think of that as the number of employees that are going to be using it. And a unique thing with us is that we don't sell based on the number of clients that are installed like some others do. It doesn't matter to us if the user has a laptop and an iPhone and an iPad, 4 or 5 different devices. They're still one user, so they only consume one license from that regard. The second element associated with our pricing structure is the number of data centers that are being protected. That's an interesting concept. You can think of a physical data center. You can think of a cloud region as a data center, for example. The beautiful thing about that element of the pricing model is that because we're pricing at the data center level and we're using virtual appliances, you could actually deploy as many appliances as you need within that data center once it's licensed to achieve any level of scale that you require. There is no other provider on the market that's doing any pricing like that. Well, Alan, I just wanted to say thank you for having me today, and I appreciate everybody taking a few minutes out of their day to jump on and listen to what we've got to say. We're here to help. Engage us. We can solve problems with you, especially around remote access and controlling who has access to various applications in the environment, and we can do it very quickly. So jump in there and let's get some things going, and everybody stay healthy in the meantime.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and thanks for being a great partner.